I'm Jenny Mosher, and today I'm talking with John Wenitong, aka Pemulwuy Weeatunga, author of the Fethafoot Chronicles. Join me as we learn about John's creative history and what he's learned over the years about writing. G'day, John. Thanks for joining me with this interview. Lovely to see you again this week. How have you been?
Fantastic. It's really beautiful up here, except winter's gone and it's now about 29, 30 degrees here at 7 o'clock in the morning with 90% humidity.
Ooh. Yeah, it was still about 8 degrees this morning down here, but it's warmed up. I've got my tropical shirt on, and I think this will be about as close as I'm going to get to Queensland for a while. So I'll just enjoy it. Now,
Enjoy the cool weather.
Enjoy the cool, yeah, well, cool morning. It's supposed to be about 29 this afternoon, I think. So, yeah, cool drink on the deck time. Now, you've published 10 books with us under the name of Pemulwuy Weeatunga. Is that how you pronounce it?
Pemulwuy Weeatunga.
Pemulwuy Weeatunga. Right, thank you. Now, one question I have about that, and a lot of our authors sort of struggle, they'll use a pseudonym. So you've used a pseudonym, but you don't hide behind that pseudonym. You're still John Wenitong, who writes as Pemulwuy Weeatunga.
Yes.
Why use a pseudonym but not hide behind it?
I was a bit lost. I've never done any writing or publishing before.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to, one of my heroes was Pemulwuy, the Eora warrior in Sydney.
Yep.
And to give the books, I guess, a bit of authentic, even in name, I decided to use Pemulwuy. And Weeatunga is a bastardized version of my father's name from Sri Lanka, which was Winigatunga. And so I decided that I'd use Pemulwuy to showcase the Aboriginal side of my writing, and then Weeatunga in basically because my father passed away when I was 21, and I didn't know him very well, so it's just to put his name out there as well as Pemulwuy's.
Oh, right. Oh, lovely. So sort of like a tribute to both men almost in a way.
In fact, if I had the chance again, I would actually just publish it under my name.
Yeah. Would that be easier?
It would be easy all round, but having the name Pemulwuy has got me, and Weeatunga. Pemulwuy, for a start, was got a lot of ancient, what I call ANCAU, ancient Australian people to at least have a look.
Yeah.
And then Weeatunga has got me a lot of readers in India, Pakistan, and all those Middle Eastern countries.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
That's interesting. So you managed to, by bringing both those parts of your heritage together, reach out. It sort of brought it together and then spread it out again.
So that is the reason that I did it in the first place, and mainly because I really was just overexcited about being an author. Yeah. And I always had this strange idea that I'd use Pemulwuy and then Weeatunga, and so I did it. But if I had the chance again, I would just call myself John Wenitong, to be honest.
Yeah, it's probably a bit easier in that respect, isn't it? Yeah. So you weren't always going to be a writer, were you? I mean,
no.
Was that the childhood dream? No.
I never ever thought I never thought about it. And then when the old construction work injuries forced me to stop work, I went a bit insane for a while because I'd worked all my life, and then suddenly I'm nothing. I'm just sitting at home trying to get over injuries and a new hip and things. And it was really, really difficult because I lost friends, I lost workmates, I lost the part of the ego that you have for working and something.
Yeah.
And then my stepdaughter, who was with me at the time, said, "Dad, why don't you write?" Because she knew that I'd lectured at a uni in Aboriginal studies, and I had all these stories that I got together for the course, because I rewrote the course back then. It was very boring, and I rewrote it and found all these colourful stories. And she said, "Why don't you give it a go?" And so I thought, well, why not? At least then it's keeping me sane and giving me something to focus on while I had to sit around for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And somebody down at the state libraries heard that I had written 4 raw stories and got in touch with me for the inaugural black and white competition for the state libraries in Queensland and said, put them in. And I said, well, they're very, very raw, and I'm not a writer. I don't know what I've done. I don't know, I don't know anything about it really.
Yeah.
And they asked me to put them in raw as they were. So I did, and I was so lucky. I won one of the highly commended for the nationally. There was only 2, and I won one, and that sort of boosted me incredibly.
Wow.
And
good on you.
Then on, yeah, it really was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I started writing, and the funny part about it for me was I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about publishing, about writing a story. So I didn't plan any of the stories or the characters. I sat down and let the characters and the environment tell my stories, and I followed that as I wrote. And I realized after I'd finished the series that it was a fantastic way to write, because it kept me really excited about what I was doing, because these new things kept coming up all the time in the story, and I just kept following the environment and the characters.
So it was really organic.
Absolutely.
You weren't trying to control the characters or make them end up. So it just happened. Wow.
It just happened, and everybody in my family, my friends, was completely shocked that I could sit down and write all this stuff without having a plan. And I said, well, I didn't know you couldn't. I didn't know you shouldn't. So for me, it was really a wonderful way to put something together. And Jenny, as I've said on my website, I kind of feel a little bit that I was more of a conduit, because I had very good literacy from reading all my life, reading everything I could get my hands on all my life.
Yep.
And I felt like I was a bit of a conduit for the whole great spirit of Aboriginal dreaming, and these stories just bolted out of me. The first 4 I did in 2 months.
Wow.
And then the other 10, it took me over 2 years. But that was pretty fast, apparently, because when I got onto you, I remember you saying, you've written 10 stories.
And look, for the viewers at home, which is not going to help the listeners, the podcast listeners, but for the viewers at home, that's what the Fethafoot Chronicles looks like physically. So we've got some shorter books at the beginning, and then we start getting a bit longer and longer till we get to number 10, which is just a bloody big book.
Which my editor proofer, Paul Vanderloos, I think.
Paul Vanderloos, yeah.
At the time, he gave me mates rates because he just started as an editor proofer.
Oh, right.
And when he got to the 10th one, he said, "This isn't a book; it's a tome, John."
So by the time you got to number 10, like 10 is significantly longer. Was that in your head at the beginning, or did you have the ideas, 10 ideas, or did you just write one book and think, oh, now I've got another idea?
I just wrote the first one, and it sort of carried on from there.
Right.
And the ideas just kept coming and coming and coming.
Yeah.
And the last one was because I thought, well, every author writes an apocalypse story.
That's true. Yeah, got to have an apocalypse. Got to have a bit of dystopia. Yeah, right.
So I started writing that, and it went on and on and on because I travelled. The story travels through Australia,
Yeah,
a long journey in Australia after the apocalypse, and it just kept getting longer and longer.
right.
And it was just amazing, really. I had no idea
Yeah,
what I was doing at the time. But
but you've got imagination.
imagination to burn. I've
Yeah,
never had writer's block. My problem is I have too many ideas.
yeah,
At the moment, I've got another 25 books on the go, and a couple of them are 300 pages long, and they're only halfway finished. And I haven't got back to them because of the injuries that I faced. And it's very difficult to sit down and focus again.
yeah,
Like in those 2 years, my body was a lot better, and I was really focused on doing the stories.
yeah.
But yeah, writer's block. I thought about it because people told me, "Do you get writer's block?" And I had to look it up and see what writer's block was.
I can hear people around the world going, "Bastard! How can he never have writer's block? That's not fair."
Well,
But
even now,
yeah,
yeah, go on.
if you're not trying to control the story or control the characters, you're possibly less likely to get writer's block, aren't you?
I think so. I
Yeah,
think so, and because I think too that having 60,000 years behind me of stories
yeah,
gives you a great chance. It gives you a great opportunity to a lot of options
yeah.
because the stories are well. When you're writing fiction, you can do anything you like,
Well, you can. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, now
and so
there's a question. Terminology. Would you terminate? Would you? Ugh, would you call yourself a storyteller as opposed to a writer?
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
My hero of the written story was Eric Wilmot, who
Hmm.
wrote Pemulwuy the Rainbow Warrior back in
Right.
1986. And when I read it, it was like reading a script for a movie more than a book.
Yeah.
And I think I got inspiration off the way he wrote
Hmm.
because he told stories with a lot of description, I guess,
Yeah.
but it was really cut down description, so you didn't have to go through, pages and pages of tiny little irrelevant things.
Yeah. No
Um,
flowery
it was the kind,
details.
it was the kind of writing that I really liked
Yeah. Yeah.
because I could really sink myself into it and see the words in pictures, see the story and what he was talking about in pictures, and I guess that inspired me to write that way. I guess, and I saw that you could do that,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and I guess it inspired me. Yes.
Good on you. You've written 10 of these. Now, when you did them originally, you released them as ebooks yourself. And
Yes,
I want to make mention of this because um, there's no one right way to self-publish anymore. Like you can do it in different ways. So
that's
you
exactly right.
self-published the ebooks yourself, but then you came to us to do the print versions.
Yes.
Um, so you know, you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket, do you? You can hedge
Well, the
bets or do
reason for
whatever
that was
works.
I tried like other authors for 18 months and
Yeah.
I sent manuscript after manuscript all around Australia and all around the world.
Hmm.
And a couple of the big publishing companies, Allen and Unwin and a couple of others, got back to me and said, "Look, mate, uh, you're a brand new author and you've written 10 books. We wouldn't even be game to take you on because you're not famous. You haven't done anything famous. Um, so you're a brand new writer. But we encourage you to keep going because the genre that you're writing in is wide open."
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
gave me a huge encouragement as well because I had learned over those 18 months that most don't even get back to you with a rejection. They just
Yeah.
throw you in the bin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I was talking to my children about it, and they were sitting on a laptop reading ebooks, and I didn't know what ebooks were. And so when I got into finding out what ebooks were, I got on to BookBaby in the USA, and they said, yes, we'll take you on for a price. And it was a fairly reasonable price, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not realizing what I was in for, I spent a year with them editing and proofing to convert from text Word to ebook format. And so I did it with them over email, and it took a whole year to get everything right. And one of the shorter books, took 7 goes to get it right. And that was
Right.
about a month's worth of work.
Yeah.
And it was really, really a steep learning curve. But I just followed directions basically, and it was fantastic.
Did it get faster as you went through the year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After the first couple, I realised what I had to do, and a couple of the problems weren't my problems. The majority of the problems were them converting to ebook format, and it was changing parts of the story. So every time they converted, they sent it back to me, and then I had to read the whole story again, which meant during that year I read each story probably 40 times. So
I mean, even when it's your own work, there's a limit, isn't there?
Oh, there was a limit, believe me. People said, do you ever read your books? I said, no, not anymore. I've read them 40 times. I've found every mistake, every full stop out of place, every dash, every comma. And when I got to you were at Mosh Publishing, I think then.
Yeah.
So when I got to you, I was fairly comfortable with it, and with working with you guys, because I worked out over that year that I'd found every mistake and everything, and it was pretty well and it was quite an easy process with your company then.
Yeah.
To do the paperback publishing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did find us. And then we've done one, Silent Sky is an ebook.
Yes, Silent Sky and Techinea Creek, I think you did.
That's right.
Too.
We did too. Yeah. I've lost count. So that's 12
couple of
titles.
Short stories I wrote for competitions that didn't go anywhere, so I said I'd put them on. I think I talked to you and Ali, and we talked about putting them on as freebies on my website. And Ali was just telling me the other day that they've had 300-400 downloads.
Oh, good.
Of people reading the freebies, which is fantastic, because it gives them a great idea of how I write and what the stories may be like that they might purchase.
Yeah, they're good marketing materials. I mean, I know the Fethafoot Chronicles are in a lot of the libraries around the country. So I did hear a rumour that number 10 was written on a cruise.
That is absolutely correct.
Who goes on a cruise to write a book?
Well, I had a marriage breakup, and I needed to do something a bit different for my birthday. And so I shouted myself this trip, but I'd written 9 books and 9 stories, and I was on the last one, and I was thinking about the apocalypse, and I didn't realize that being on a huge boat would still hurt my back.
Oh, really?
Because the boat's always, even though it's a massive boat, it's still going up and down. So you're using your core muscles non-stop to walk, to sit, and to do everything. So I was always going to finish the story if I could while I was there, because I wasn't interested. I went with a friend, and he was interested in drinking and draining the boat's 12 bars dry, and I didn't drink.
Yep. Well, that's not a match made in heaven, mate.
Luckily, he was a good mate. So yes, I used the time, and to be honest, it was quite a good thing, quite a good position to be in because you can't go anywhere except for the boat, and your scenery is beautiful, absolutely stunningly beautiful, nighttime or daytime.
Yeah.
So I would sit out.
Yeah. Where did you cruise to?
Port Vila and all the little islands around New Hebrides.
Oh, lovely.
My mum's father came from that area, Ambrams Island in the New Hebrides, and I had never seen the area at all because of working all my life, and now I was basically semi-retired because of the injuries. I thought I'd go on this boat cruise. I just didn't realise how hard it would be on me being on a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. But I took painkillers and I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote while I was on there, and I had it almost finished by the time I got back in 12 days.
Wow.
I just wanted a change of scenery and see new things, and it just worked out really well for me to sit down on the deck and write. And I sat on the deck for 12 days basically and wrote morning and night, and made some good friends because of what I was writing as well, because people were coming over, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You don't go to the pub, you don't go to the dances, you don't go to this and you don't go to that. And I said, I'm writing a book. Oh.
Am I in it? Am I in it? So no one was paranoid that you were actually writing about the people you were watching?
No, I explained to them what I was doing, and I showed them some of the first stories I'd written. Yeah. And people were ripping off my, they wanted to get it on, they wanted to get hold of them, and of course I couldn't print it out, and people were coming up to me with USB sticks saying, can you put it on this? And I said, well, no, I haven't published it yet.
And when I do publish it, I'm not giving it to you on a USB stick anyway. You go and buy it, mate.
Exactly. But it was a fantastic trip, and it was really, and I'd never been on a big cruise like that before, but it was a great way for me to focus.
Yeah. And I found, like, I've only ever done one cruise. It was 3 nights. It was just it was a tester. And I found I relaxed like I wouldn't have believed I did. It just...
Yes, that's right. That's part of it too, that when you move out of Brisbane on the boat and you start seeing only ocean, relax. I've always loved the ocean, and I've been a fisherman all my life, and it just relaxes me completely. So it was a great way for me to relax as well. After a few heavier parts of my life changing.
So you've got the books out. How do you find promotion, like selling as an author? Like a lot of our authors say that's the hard thing, marketing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I had no idea when I started, but the time, because of self-publishing, I had to learn quickly about every part of the business, I guess you might call it. So I realized that there was around 10,000 books per day being published. I found out there was about 10,000 books per day being published around the world.
And that was back then.
And that was back then.
Yeah.
So to keep your head, and it's much easier to publish these days as well.
Yeah.
So, which a lot of people have realised, and now every man and his dog is writing a book and publishing it. So to keep my head above water, I had to do everything possible. So that's why my books are in the libraries everywhere, which was, part and parcel of promotion. And I started paying money to promote my books on different sites and advertising them here and there, and using Google and using anybody basically that was cheap enough for me to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
I wanted to put them into an audio book, until I realised that they were charging per word to
Yeah.
put them into audio books, and my last book was huge.
Huge. Yeah.
So
I can't remember the word count, but yeah.
no, I can't either now, but it would have cost me around 20 grand
Yeah.
to do it, and that just wasn't on.
No, the problem with audiobooks, like they're great. They're a great thing to have as an asset as an author, but to produce them, somebody has to read every single word. Then
And read
somebody
it
an au
well
sorry?
as you and read it well as you would like it to be read.
Exactly.
And because I used a lot of Aboriginal English
Yep.
in the books to explain things, um, I found that a lot of the I got a few trials, I got a few samples from people, but I
Yep.
found that a lot of them had no idea how to pronounce some of the words and how to put the meaning across for a particular paragraph that I
Yep.
felt so strongly about. So
Yeah. Yeah.
in the end, it was either me do it myself or wait until it was cheap,
Yeah. Yeah.
or until Word can do it for you with inflection.
With inflection, yeah. It's getting there. You can actually
It
use
is.
Word now
It is.
to translate your
It's
text
fantastic.
to audio.
Um,
Um,
Word at the Word at the moment is getting better and better and better
yeah.
non-stop.
Yeah.
And nowadays on Word, you can just listen. You can, well, that was one of the things I learned, that you can, back in the early days, that if you want to know what your story sounds like, you get Word to read it back to you, and you
Yeah.
quickly find any mistakes or pauses or things that shouldn't be there.
That's right.
So
It helps you
it,
work out, "Oh, shouldn't have put the comma there, should have put it here." Yeah, and things like
absolutely,
that. Yeah.
absolutely, it was a
Yeah.
great help.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good little tool, that. So, are you still writing? Are you playing your guitar still? Are you writing songs?
Um, yes and no.
Yes and no.
My injuries have forced me to put the guitar to the side,
Yep.
because when you play, you start swaying. You can't help it. You
Of
move.
course. That's
And of course, where I used to be able to play for 4 hours at a time, now 20 minutes and I'm in pain.
oh, it's a
So
shame.
uh, I'm still playing, and I put um, little tricks I learned on YouTube every now and then on my YouTube website
Yep.
for amateurs
Yeah.
to learn a few tricks. Um, and I'm still writing, but a lot of short story stuff, which doesn't take me long to write, like
Yeah.
the Furious Fiction, which you write 500 words in 24 hours, I think it is, and in competitions. But I write an awful lot these days for social platforms
Mhm.
to get my, or basically to help advance ancient Australians in Australia.
Yeah.
Um, so on Facebook these days, there's an Aboriginal website called Aboriginal that has 55,500 people nationally.
Right. Yeah.
So I do an awful lot of short story, comedy,
Yep.
and I've just finished a whole series of funny things that happened when I was working in construction for 30, 40 years. And people have just been saying it's been helping them through the lockdowns.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good.
I've realised just this year, after having my books out for 10 years, that
Yeah.
you must promote the author as well as the books. You
Yeah.
cannot just promote the books without the person.
That's right.
And
People don't buy
so,
books, they buy authors.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which which surprised me, because I always read fiction because of the stories, not because of the author.
Yeah.
Like Stephen King. I didn't know much about Stephen King, but I loved his stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have found recently that even the stuff I'm doing on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram is getting me more clients reading
Yeah.
my book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the funny stories I'm telling and the silly things I put on, the
Yeah.
funny little songs I do, it's all it's a big part of getting your books out there, because people like what like what you are, I
That's right.
guess.
And if they like what they see there, chances are they're going to like the content of your books.
Yes,
And that helps because
yes,
this is another thing. No matter what you write, your books aren't going to appeal to everybody. Doesn't matter
no,
what your
no,
topic is. So what you want to do is attract the people that like the stuff that you do.
yes,
And then they'll be the ones more inclined, instead of trying to appeal to everybody, appeal to the people that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can get that connection with.
I
Yeah.
learned that. I learned that little lesson from putting out my manuscripts and what the feedback I got as well. That what is your audience, John? Who are
Yeah.
your audience?
Mm,
Say what?
yeah.
What do you mean?
But it's right.
Everybody's going to read my books. Everybody will love me.
That's so true. It's not everybody.
It's
Everybody
not.
is not going to be your audience. No, no,
No,
no,
no.
no, that's
And I
right.
had this something strange that happened to me was that I found out that my books are being read as ebooks, mostly in the countries of people who have dark skin in the Middle East and Asian countries.
Right.
And I wouldn't have never have thought about that. But
No.
all the people that the English went over and conquered and made learn English are
Yeah.
now can read my books.
Books. Yeah.
And they're reading them because they don't know anything about Australia. And here's this dark skinned Aboriginal person telling them stories about the country and about what happened, but in a nice way. And I use a lot of comedy
Yeah.
in all my stories because that's how I grew up. My uncles, aunts, all the people I knew used humour as a crutch, you might
Yeah.
say, for any bad things.
Yeah.
To just point in question, I used to ring my cousin in Gladstone when I was a young man, and she'd pick up the phone and say, "Who died?"
Yep. And humor makes, you can still tell a serious story and put humor into it too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I think you've got to.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that's how I feel. I don't feel. I feel that your stories have got to be a little bit like life, and if life doesn't give you a laugh now and then, well,
What's the
it's a
point?
very dull, boring
Yeah.
position to be in.
Yeah.
Um, and you can get humour out of almost anything I found, and
Yeah.
that came into all my writing was
Yeah.
funny bits and
So when you were, I think early on, you got me onto Joe R. Lansdale. You were reading Paradise Sky,
yeah,
and you put a clip from Paradise Sky on Facebook, and I read it, and I thought, oh my God, that's just hilarious. So you obviously resonated with his sort of storytelling. You've
yes,
got a similar sort of
yes,
style that
yes.
yeah,
I yeah, absolutely. I found that real life, like I love Stephen King and his
yep.
horror stories.
His
But
psychology is amazing. His understanding of human psychology. Yeah.
it is, but there's not a lot of humour in
No.
his uh, tales. I found, but when I wrote, I was writing what I hoped was more real life, and
Yeah.
real life is funny and sad
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time, and you've got no choice with most of it. So I tried to bring out the funny bits as much as possible as well, and
Yeah.
my stories gave me great scope to um, bring out humour,
Yeah. Yeah.
the humour of yes.
And that makes it entertaining. It's not just a read. It makes it entertaining for the reader, doesn't it? A
Well,
bit of
if your books
humour.
aren't entertaining, people aren't going to read them.
Yeah.
You know, I've been sent a couple of books recently that I thought by the cover and by the authors would be fantastic, and they were dull and very dull and formulaic.
Mm. Mm.
And I read 10 pages and put them down
Yeah. Yeah.
when I imagined they would be fantastic. But
Yeah.
they were formulaic and historical, and there was no fun in the story.
No.
It was just telling you what happened, and well, I have enough serious stuff in my life without sitting down and reading that.
Don't we all? Yeah. Yeah. So now you've got 25 stories. You said you've still got 25 unfinished stories. Do you think you'll ever finish one of them, or you? Do you want to, or does it not
I want to.
frustrate you? Yeah, yeah,
It frustrates me that I can't sit for long enough
yeah,
uh, to focus, I guess.
yeah.
But what I've done is I've inspired a couple of my grandchildren to start writing,
Oh, good.
and they're writing fiction. And so what I did was, now that they've hit their teens, I've told them that I have all these stories half written and that I'd like them to take over if I never finish them.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't know what to do with them because I didn't want them to go to waste. Because, as I said, some of
Yeah,
them are 300 pages long already,
yeah, yeah,
and it seemed like such a waste. But couldn't, I couldn't focus because of the injuries. I'm
yeah.
sitting here with you talking, but my neck is burning, my
Is it?
back is playing up,
Yep.
but I'm used to it. But you can't focus. You can't
Yeah,
get into your story and sit down and write for 6 hours
yeah.
straight more.
It's,
And that's how I learned to write.
yeah, yeah. Especially with the typing. Can you record? Do voice like record, like walk around, or and then
Yes, I
convert it to
could, but
text?
I could do that easily because my phone will do it for me
Yeah,
these days. But I can't write like that. I need, for some reason, I need to see the words,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
words inspire me for the next words. And
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
I'm, it's just, I don't know why that is. To be honest, I'm not that sort of writer that can just go blah blah blah
yeah.
out of my head.
You need to see them and
I
type
would
them,
go, I would go everywhere.
and then they'd be 600 pages long. Oh
Yeah.
dear. Well, look, I think
But
yeah,
I am hopeful that I I'm now walking for the first time in 8 months again, and I'm
that's
walking up
fantastic.
8 kilometres early in the morning here before the sun comes up.
8
And
kilometers.
yes,
That's fantastic. Yeah, yeah,
it is,
yeah,
and mentally it's so fantastic for me.
yeah,
And so I'm hopeful that over the next year I'll get back into be able to work out a way of sit down and finishing those stories
yeah,
because I think a couple of them are absolutely fantastic.
yeah.
That's
And I tell
all
you
I can
what,
do.
if you don't like your own work, no one else is going to like it.
I think that as well.
Yeah,
I think you're right there.
yeah,
You can write for an audience or you can write formulaic, but
yeah,
if you don't like it, um, you can't expect anybody else to. You really can't. I hope to keep going. I hope to keep going and finish these stories. I've got one called Set in America, and it's basically uh, a Featherfoot warrior being caught in America in an apocalypse, and there's 7 people who try to take over in America, and they're they live underneath the banner of the 7 deadly sins. So
okay,
gluttony, avarice, and so the authors, the Fethafoot warrior is going through America, having to stop these people from taking over because they want to be dictatorships in
yeah,
their little area of America. So he goes through and he finds the opposite of these people as he's going through, and that one's 250 pages long already.
good grief.
And it was so much fun to write. But as I
Yeah,
said, getting back into that is very difficult unless I can get my body uh,
yeah,
functioning again, I suppose
to
you
do
might
the
call
right
it.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And then writing under painkillers, that dulls the senses as well, so it's not yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's right too. Yeah,
Well, we might leave you in peace to get that neck and back. You probably need a good massage, mate. Go and get a massage. Although I
I have the
suppose,
most wonderful masseur here,
do
and
you? Yeah.
yes, and she loves me and charges me cheaply, and she's probably one of the best. Well, she would be the best masseur I've ever found, and I've been using masseurs since 1982 when I first broke my back. And she would be the best I've ever found. And she's right here in Bowen.
Well, I might have to come and visit when they open the borders because I haven't had a massage in 3 months thanks to lockdown, and everything hurts. So I'm looking forward to,
I empathise with you completely.
Yeah. All right, Matty. Look, lovely to talk with you. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for trusting us with the Fethafoot Chronicles. And if you're out there, just look for the covers. They're all similar, and easy to identify. John Wenitong, Pemulwuy Weeatunga, thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Have a good one, mate.
Thanks so much for your time, Jenny.
Thank you, John. Take care. Bye. You've been listening to an IndieMosh interview with John Wenitong, aka Pemulwuy Weeatunga. If you'd like to learn more about John or check out some of his books, then visit indiemosh.com.au or search for the Fethafoot Chronicles at your favourite online retailer. I'm Jenny Mosher. Thanks for listening.